Ah, so those of you who regularly leave comments, I just want to say thanks a lot. I really appreciate them. You know who you are. It's the Third Pill blog, the Trash Stash, the Ice Lord. There's Nostalgia Cult, the Great Bird. I appreciate when you share your thoughts on movies and stuff like that. It's always fun, to hear what other people gotta say about these movies I discuss. And these last few weeks have been a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, September up to now, I mean, Dario Argento's turned 72. Blue Underground, the label, has turned 20. And most recently, Jean-Luc Godard chose to die at the age of 91. He chose to end his life by assisted suicide. The last few decades, Godard has been a resident in Switzerland, where this procedure is legal. So he was able to use that option to just quit. And so he himself put the final stop in a very long and very, let's say, very uneven career with a very brilliant start, and then many periods where Godard has gone into very obscure areas where it was more politics and essays than cinema in our general sense. And then he reemerged again around 79 when he once again hired a few better known actors, and his movies once again were screened on the big screen in France, even though the reception was still somewhat reserved, because Godard kept alienating producers. He kept frustrating his audiences by sticking to his own guns and being as cryptic or as cynical or as elitist as he wished. And I gotta say, his last two movies, which played my local cinemas, saying Goodbye to Language and the Book of Images, I could have gone and watched them, but each time I thought, well, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to go and sit through this? And quite frankly, I didn't go either time. So I would follow Godard, because there is still projects in maybe they will be completed now after the fact, now that he's gone. But he was developing a couple more movies as of late, so we'll see whether those see the light of day now or not. And Godard, to me, when I think Godard, I have to go, I have to go back to those days in my memory when I think I was staying with some friends in London. That was back in there when physical media was massive, where you actually had CDs, books, movies on DVD. Pretty much on every corner there would be like some they would be available a lot more than nowadays in brick and mortar shops. And I remember just seeing there were two box sets. There was first just the one box set from Optimum, and I thought, Godard, well, this sounds kind of cool. And then I bought a single DVD release of Breathless, of his debut film, which was really an amazing revelation to me at the time. I think anybody who's like a film lover and discovers that film Breathless for the first time, it feels like, oh, wow, this is so mind-blowing. So I felt like, I don't know, rejuvenated and everything. This movie really got me excited, and I really wish there would be more such movie revelations, these days. So I really like Breathless. Then I was so happy about it. I actually let somebody borrow this DVD from me, so I never got it back. And then I had to buy this Optimum DVD collection, Godard DVD collection, which had a bunch of movies, including Breathless. I think Alphaville was in it, and a couple more films. And that was my introduction. And I remember the subtitles being sort of, there would be like quite a lot of dialogue, and then you just see very compressed subtitles. So there was a little bit of a generalized translation, so that made those films seem a little bit more maybe clever, because you were wondering what were they actually saying in French. And there were those introductions by this guy called Colin McCabe, and so those Optimum box sets Godard 1 and 2 were my introduction, and I think after that it was a bit more of a frustrating time navigating, because at your own kind of peril you would be discovering movies, and some hurt more than others. I think I remember Weekend hurt a lot. I that's one of the ones I find very difficult to watch. Weekend is not my movie, but then there would be certain other ones which I thought are just brilliant, but they are very hard to come by. Like there is a movie he made in I think maybe in the 90s, which is called it's like the initials of his name is like JLG/JLG, and it's like a medium length film, and that's one of my favorite films of all time. I mean, if you Google it, you'll see it's meant to be a kind of a documentary, but it's actually like something like more like a portrait. Like Godard insisted it wasn't a documentary. It's a beautiful film because it's breathtaking shots of nature, and there is great use of music, amazing montage, like editing Godard movies, sound editing, sound and picture editing. This is like the film school. If you can't afford to go to film school, just get yourself Godard movies with good picture and sound quality. Not on YouTube, but somewhere where you can get really the full stereo, because he was really very, very happy to play around with stereo tracks and make sure the sounds would be coming where he wanted them and stuff like that. So that movie, JLG/JLG, I can wholeheartedly recommend. It's shortish, so it doesn't torture you as badly as some of Godard's more. There are some other films which are a bit more cumbersome. I don't want to name. Then there was the History of Cinema, which is like a series. And this is really incredible. Like Jess Franco referred to as the Bible of cinema. When Jess Franco was at his last legs, and he gave an interview where he finally admitted that, I've always been impressed by Godard. I've always been sort of inspired by Godard. So that was interesting, him revealing that kinship. And you can see certain kinship because they were both, towards the end of their life, both Godard and Jess Franco, they embraced digital, and they were making those kind of very frustrating, very non-commercial movies. Godard will be piling on like quite obscure puns and highbrow references mixed with just more crude jokes, like his movie like King Lear, which he made for Canon Films. There is like fart jokes and things like that, and the same. And in case of Jess Franco, he would be like just piling on more and more slow motion kind of table dance sequences, or just girls slow motion smoking, things like that. So yeah, the two had something in common in that they could be relied upon to frustrate their their viewers. So when the news broke that Godard had died, I think I was a bit more upset by his death than by that of a few other celebrities who died recently, because obviously Godard is that he's really outlived most of his peers, most of his co-directors from the time. Also, most of his stars of his movies are either retired now or dead. So I just want to say there is also a movie called In Praise of Love, which again was available in the UK on DVD, but that movie had like a wrong aspect ratio. So that movie, I can warn you, if you're gonna get that UK DVD, it's cropped. So it's cropped from like a KDM ratio to like 69 to this kind of fake widescreen, and that really ruins the movie. It's an interesting film, but I think the aspect ratio in Godard movies is very important, and I think he's really another really, really cool movie. If you want to get into Godard, where he's a bit frustrating, but at the same time breathtaking images and some very stimulating cross-cutting of impressions and ideas, I would recommend his film Our Music. I think the French title is like Notre Musique, and I'm not sure it's even how easy it is to get these days. The cool thing about the film is, if you know horror movies and Lucio Fulci, if you know the school, like the college, the girls' college from Enigma, the house, the prominent building, Godard actually shot inside the same building in this movie Our Music, and that because that building is situated in the middle of Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia, and if you kind of look at the staircase, the marble staircase, it becomes apparent that it's the same interiors. You don't see so much the house from the outside in Godard's movie, but if you look at the interiors, you can pretty much say it's the same place. So I find that kind of, highbrow, lowbrow kind of. Oh, I see Wes there. Oh man, Wes. Hi. I'm just talking Godard here. So that highbrow, lowbrow kind of link between Fulci and the Nouvelle Vague, the French New Wave. That's interesting. That's stimulating. So now that Godard is gone, I'm sure there's going to be. I look forward to retrospectives. I hope there's going to be something in Berlin, where I'm currently at. So I hope they dig up some, maybe even 35mm prints. That would be great. I mean, it only takes for somebody to die for all the world to suddenly start singing and praise. That's very typical. I mean, that's just how we function as human beings, right? So I hope the plus thing of Godard's death is going to be that there is going to be a bit of a resurgence. Maybe there's going to be a box set released by some prominent label, or there's going to be a respective. And speaking of prominent labels, I mean, this month's boutique label, Blue Underground, Bill Lustig's outfit. Well, it's great to have you, Wes. I mean, I'm happy to talk movies. I haven't been able to stream for ages for technical reasons. I mean, last stream I meant to do was going to be like me rating Dario Argento movies, and that didn't work because I don't know, the camera failed or something. I've still got the movies here. Maybe I can fit it in this time. We'll see. So yeah, Blue Underground, 20 years. I mean, what I didn't realize is how intimately Bill Lustig was involved in creating those extras for Anchor Bay, because I'm a huge Anchor Bay lover. Anchor Bay was my door into Spanish horror. Like, it introduced me to certain like movies like the Blind Dead movies and stuff like that. And apparently that was all the menus and compiling those, getting those people to give their testimonies for the video interviews, for the supplements. That was mainly Bill Lustig's work for Blue Underground, which I didn't realize at the time. But obviously it makes sense that then he kind of took over that catalog and re-released those very similar editions via Blue Underground. So, I mean, I still haven't really taken the plunge into 4K. I mean, I work with 4K video a lot, and I do see the point, but I don't see the point of triple dipping, because I still got a VCR which isn't working out. I still watch, like, half my Dario Argento collection is still VHS. So it's kind of hard for me to accept that, yeah, I mean, this is 2022, like, it's time to move on and stuff like that. So, I'm not sure when I'm gonna, there was like 2 times this year where I thought, okay, I'm gonna get me UHD player, but then it hasn't happened. There is like 4 movies that's come out which I absolutely have to own on UHD. I know that when I get a UHD upgrade, I will buy those movies. But at the same time, I also know that once you take the plunge, there is no looking back, and there will be that temptation to start upgrading a lot of movies, which probably will cost me a ton of money. And I'll be frank with you, I am very reluctant to do this. I mean, I was a latecomer to Blu-ray. What happened was a friend of mine was involved in a certain release in Spain, and he sent me a DVD as a present, a Blu-ray as a present, of which he'd helped put out. Yeah, I mean, nothing wrong with VHS. I watch a lot of YouTube content about people collecting VHS. I really genuinely think VHS is, I mean, it's like such a huge part of, I mean, for my generation, it's something, it's like, it's like the foundation, really. It's tape, you could, it was more related to the actual film spools and things. It actually was almost like the real movie, like film, but tape. There was something mechanical there. So there is that relation. And, I have to say, most tapes I've kept still run pretty well. If they were not dodgy bootlegs, they still work. So, yeah, I'm getting off on a tangent there. Yeah, so 4K, I mean, when I think Blue Underground now, I obviously think those monster 4K releases, which all get like 10-star reviews. If you go to Blu-ray.com, all those like, Zombie, the New York Ripper, whatever. The thing is, when I look at those, one thing that kind of worries me, and generally this is the thing about 4K, when I look at 4K reviews, is I think they apply a certain, they plaster like this LUTs over the whole movie, so they like affect the film's original grade in post. This is my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I have a little bit of experience with video post-production. So when I see like the color timing, like how warm it is or how cool, it just makes me feel a little bit wary, because that's not something I can switch off on that UHD, right? I mean, this is like burnt in. It's not like, when they create a new sound option for a movie where they mix the sound effects differently, where you can switch it off and still go with native mono, for example, native old stereo track. Whereas with this grade, I cannot switch it off, so I'm stuck with it. And when I look at the New York Ripper, the screen grabs, the trailer from the UHD, it just has that bluish kind of teal tint, which wasn't really there. I mean, I've seen so many different editions of the New York Ripper because I really like that movie. And hell, it never looked like that. It always had the quite normal, good white balance and good colors. Even the earlier releases which were a bit grotty and gritty, but still, I mean, it never had a dirty blue. So I don't know. This is another thing. I'm like, I really want those UHD, but can't they do like some kind of format where I can decide, do I keep the original tinting or do I apply this modern? It's like I think there is Red Sonja UHD disc, which again, somebody's plastered some very weird LUT over it, and it looks weird. It looks kind of pimped out and doesn't look like the Red Sonja I used to watch as a young adult. UHD. Another thing about UHDs is that the thorough restoration they do is when they eliminate all those little scratches and specks and dust and things like that and clean up it to make it look pristine. And I do like a lot of things like Kino puts out, where they leave the scratches, they leave everything. They just take the print, they scan it nicely, but they don't process it too much. I wonder whether it will be so hard to kind of offer that as well on the same UHD maybe, or I don't know, as a bonus, because I think, again, unaffected color grade, just if you're scanning a print, a 35mm print, the colors will be obviously, the range will not be as massive as when you regrade the negative, but there is also that analog color to it, which I miss, and I miss it because I used to watch movies at the cinema, and I miss that kind of the hues, which you do not get with UHD. UHD looks really like Photoshop, very bright. There is a lot of range and colors really pop, but not in an authentic analog way. So yeah. So those are kind of my stumbling blocks why I don't, yeah, I miss the imperfections. I mean, I really, this is why also I keep a lot of older DVDs and things like that, because sometimes the DVDs had the trailers where, I don't know if they got those trailers from, So they would be scanned from some film reels or whatever, and there would be like this old, recognizably kind of, to me, very warm looking and authentic looking color palette and things like that. So yeah, I'll just try and do the honors now regards to this Dario Argento thing. So I have just a handful of them here. These are just the ones I got in digital because I couldn't dig up my VHS for this occasion. So I'm gonna try and rate the movies, rate the Dario Argento movies, and probably more towards the bottom is this beauty here, Il Cartaio, set in Rome, serial killers stalking the streets and stuff like that. I've come from completely rejecting this movie to half embracing it. So I embrace about 30% of this film, and I think 30% is really good. The rest, I try not to think about it too much. I really like the score as well. I cannot watch the English dub, so yeah. The English dub really sinks the movie for me a lot, like really a lot. So this is why it's not so not the top choice for me. I don't mind it not being gory. I still think gore, to me, I'm getting kind of mellow in my age. Gore, to me, I mean, I could, if they start cutting movies again, I won't mind so much because I've seen enough prosthetics, I've seen enough simulated, headshots, decapitations. I've seen enough of that, So another movie which is probably gravitates more towards the bottom is Four Flies on Grey Velvet. I love this film, but I just do not love it as much as I want to love it. It came late into my collection because that movie, as you know, was unavailable for many years. There were just those kind of dodgy DVDs around. There was just a German DVD which was very, very dark with like crushed blacks and you couldn't see much and there were like bits missing in it. And then the movie suddenly became available because I think there was a problem with Paramount. Luigi Cozzi tried to explain it to me, but I'm sure there is a video where you can find why it was tangled up. Four Flies, I mean, amazing visuals, really, really good visuals. I think that the score is a bit mismatched with the film. I don't know. I feel like when I hear the music, I imagine a completely different movie. So I don't know what Morricone was scoring, and I think maybe it wasn't quite, it didn't quite gel for me. Also, the protagonist, I mean, I think he looks like a Dario Argento doppelganger, but his acting prowess in that film, I mean, I think he was cast in last second and he doesn't really emote as much. So those are kind of the points. Also, the killer's motive, but I like this film. What I really like is the architecture. I love the architecture in this movie, Four Flies. Great shots there. And I love the character, the detective Arrosio. He's cool. Some of them editing is great, but what the problem with the editing is in this film, in my opinion, the little problem is that it's like trying to put sugar into your coffee because the coffee is too bitter, too strong. So you put more sugar in it just to camouflage that it's basically too concentrated. So I think the montage is trying to hide that this is a very chaotic film, Four Flies. There are many ideas. Luigi Cozzi threw together many ideas from science fiction books and, murder mysteries and things like that. So it's a bit of a not quite well digested, brew, but it's brimming with technical. It was a very kind of innovative film for its time. But still not my very favorite, but I do watch it. So oddly enough, I say it's not my favorite, but I do watch it a lot. That's Four Flies on Grey Velvet. Next up is Trauma. I first saw this on full screen VHS, and that didn't look like such a cool film. That was actually the first Dario Argento movie I ever saw. I didn't know it was a Dario Argento movie. Somebody was watching it and I walked in and I just saw the final maybe 10 minutes of the film. I was wondering, what the hell was that? I was as a kid. Then many years later, I saw Trauma. I realized, that was a Dario Argento movie. So that's one of those stories. I really like it for the acting, and there is the, there is the intrigue. I think the killer is well disguised, and I like the setting. I think it's a very weird setting for the film in Minneapolis. I think the leads really anchor the film a lot and help the movie, even though there is a definite lack of gore. Like there is potentially room for very graphic things in this, but the way they're presented, it's. I think I'm sure many fans were underwhelmed after some gory excesses coming to this very quite sobering movie. So that's Trauma. Okay, let's move on. And next up is oh hell, this is getting hard now. This is getting hard. So this will be twos now, I guess, because it's kind of getting hard to rate these movies. So yeah, this actually Blue Underground. I'm not sure if they're gonna do this Blue Underground as a 4K because they would have to probably prepare a fresh scan for this. We'll see. I'd like them to take a gamble on the Stendhal syndrome. Just don't watch this in English. It's a cool movie, very grim though, but full of beauty. And I think this was really the last hooray from Argento in terms of his obsession with really clever camera tricks and like technique above everything else. He still kind of had the chops for that with this film. You can say, yeah, well, some of it is a bit more like a 90s American film. Maybe in some ways it is. But as far as technique goes and execution, I think Argento was still very much firing on all cylinders here with the Stendhal syndrome. The beginning, the opening 25 minutes are really good. And if you like art also, I think it really depends. Do you like going to galleries and do you like painting and things like that? If you do, then it's much easier to appreciate this film, I think. But yeah, it is a dark film. And the ending, it leaves a bit of an aftertaste, I think. So that's Stendhal syndrome. Yeah, it's getting very tough now. Very, very tough. Just a few movies left. So these ones, I guess I love them both kind of equally. It's hard to tell which one. Sleepless and The Two Evil Eyes, the Dario Argento bit. So I'll just say Sleepless. I think Turin, really gorgeous in this film. Really, really nice choice of architecture and magnificent. Also the score from Goblin, how it kind of edits together the music, those kind of the crane shots flying towards like windows in the house. The more I watch it now, the more I notice echoes from Deep Red. But when I first saw when it came out, I wasn't so well informed about Dario Argento's previous early movies. So I just saw it as a genuine product, as an original movie, and not as a best-of compilation. So I loved it all the more for it. So it has a special place in my heart. Two Evil Eyes, the camera work is really wild in The Black Cat. And the interesting thing is the parallels, I think, with Fulci's Black Cat, because there is the music from Pino Donaggio, there are some definite similarities there. And the cat point of view shots also seem to be like recalling Fulci's kind of homemade Steadicam in his The Black Cat. Very, very good acting from Harvey Keitel. I mean, that was like a genuinely good actor. I think Harvey Keitel wasn't going through such a good time when he agreed to be in Argento's film, but he does a great job. And I think his character, even though he's a violent, sick person, Harvey Keitel knows how to make those characters also somehow human, which is cool. But his partner in the film, what was the actor's name? Can't remember. She's really underused to the film. Like her character is really kind of in the background, even though she's important to the film, but she doesn't get so much. She's a very good actor. I forget the name now. So Two Evil Eyes, Sleepless. This again, cannot choose which one. Tenebrae, Inferno. Both films are about books. If you love reading, if you love culture, if you love Italy, very hard to choose. I mean, this is definitely. I prefer this movie to Suspiria. It's a great film, more mature than Suspiria, with amazing atmosphere. And I think the third movie, spiritually, The Mother of Tears, I don't think this in spirit really serves as a true continuation or closure of this trilogy. I think Michele Soavi's movie, The Church, actually, in terms of interest in esoteric subjects, I think it's more of a true successor and a sequel to in spirit sequel to Inferno here. Tenebrae, I mean, wow. I mean, seriously, this film, if I could go and live inside a movie, I would go and live inside Tenebrae. They're just essential movies. I own these movies across many formats, and yeah, one day UHD will be great. I know Tenebrae is out on UHD, so yeah, could be my very first UHD then. Yeah, and yeah, it's very hard for me to choose, but currently at the top is probably Cat. I just love the early thrillers from Dario so much. They are very, very, very feel-good movies. I love that. I love the jokes. I love the kind of innocence and the way the image. I think it's very hard now to imagine something like this to come out from Italy, because just there has been so many crises in the Italian film industry and in the Italian society in general, so the outlook is a lot bleaker these days. So those kind of, those kind of characters, they just don't live anymore in Italian movies. They just don't happen anymore, because there's a lot now. These are much more cynical times. So going back to these movies is like reliving a more naive time in some ways. It's wow. So I wouldn't go into these movies looking for like hardcore violence or like titillation, but it's just they're so well made. I think Cat is currently my favorite. I just think in terms of widescreen use of scope cinematography, this is like the top Dario Argento movie for me. Thanks a lot. So that's me over and done with something I planned to do a while ago. That's Dario Argento Stack. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, what's the situation where you are with physical media? Because over here, I try and go to like the flagship stores where there are still shelves with like movies and vinyls and things like that. And every time I go there, I try and go once a month at least to like a brick and mortar shop and see like the range and stuff. And every time I fear that the space is gonna have shrunk in the meantime. They will have probably maybe removed half of it or even all of it, because I wonder what it's like. I live in a relatively big city, and here there is still kind of demand, and the people are still evidently going there to buy stuff. But I do worry every time, because I know in many countries it's like in pretty much like it's disappearing, and this really worries me. I hate the idea of physical media like not being available to buy for cash in brick and mortar stores anymore. But yeah, I wonder what it's like. Is it just me panicking? Because I mean, this year, a few months ago, about 3 months ago, I guess, the last big rental store chain, there was still video rental stores in Berlin, and up until very recently. And they started closing down. They started they're doing the closing down sales and stuff, and they're gone now. So that's like many things. I mean, I have to say this year has been like so tinged with nostalgia, because like this feeling of outliving your time in terms of values and what's going on. It's there is more and more tendency, I don't know, to seek solace in looking back, because the future looks kind of a bit sanitized and a bit unexciting and insipid, to be honest with you. It's just I don't know. When it comes to movies, like also what's on film festivals and things like that, there is very few, I don't know, new exciting things, to get really to think, yeah, I can't wait to watch this. So I find it somehow comforting to revisit more the familiar stuff, which, yeah, I mean, it's a weird tendency, but it's kind of, that's what's happening. So yeah, I mean, I noticed that Jess Franco videos on my channel seem to be quite popular, and Jess Franco reviews, but a lot of Jess Franco movies are quite adult oriented, so I don't really like YouTube and those kind of movies. I can't really post screenshots. I can't really name a spade. So I'm thinking maybe I'll set up like a Telegram or something where I can do like Jess Franco reviews, and cover some of the titles which aren't for general audience, which are a bit more like the rougher ones he made, which he's made a lot, like, the more of a grindhouse output, where the titles and everything is just so not YouTube compatible, I think. So yeah, this is something I'm considering or doing, like finding an alternative platform for more thorough Jess Franco reviews without like all the YouTube red flags and filters. Wes, yes, Wes, your collection, man. I mean, impressive collection. I remember your Arrow collection video tour. Impressive stuff there, and there was like one or two movies there which I just thought, oh my god, he's even got those. And some of them were like you had like twice, one still shrink wrap. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I wonder what it's like out in the States. I mean, if you went to like a chain store there, I don't know, they just probably have just Jurassic Park now, or what's it called, Jurassic World, whatever, and maybe some kids movies and nothing else probably, if that, on physical media. I really wonder. Yeah. This is the longest live stream I've ever done. I don't really do long live streams, so I'm gonna say my goodbyes. And if you're gonna be watching this in replay, and I would appreciate a comment or two. So that would be really cool. And thanks a lot for all of you who's joined the channel in the last few weeks. It's been really cool chatting to you. Thanks a lot, Wes, for being there live. So I'm gonna be shutting this down now, and I'll be seeing you some other time. Huh? Thanks a lot.